enthusiasm and dedication we have shown in bringing Mr. Aviv to campus has ignited the interest of 5 college area students, JLB's alumni network, CJP of Boston, and the David Project, all of which I'd like to thank for donating to this event. As a flagship Judaic club at UMass, we are overwhelmingly proud to host Juval Aviv, whose insights into personal safety go unrivaled around the world. A man of great valor, Juval Aviv has a vivid history with international security experiences. As an investigator of cases with notable worldwide impact, he's been afforded the opportunities to reach pieces of history that most of us never will. Mr. Aviv was the lead investigator for Pan Am Airlines in the aftermath of the horrific Lockerbie bombing in 1988 that blew a jumbo jet out of the sky and took the lives of 270 individuals, both on the plane and subsequently on the ground. On February 24th of this year, Libya's former Prime Minister, Mustafa Abdul-Jalil, made a sharp claim asserting that Muammar Gaddafi personally ordered the attack, which has only deepened tensions between the two countries. More recently, he has investigated the Bernie Madoff scandal and was also hired to work on the Enron case. Due to his work, his firm has recovered over $18 billion in assets for his clients. By comparison, that number is over 18 times the total of UMASS Amherst's projected 2011 revenue. You may have heard that Juval Aviv's personal account of one secret mission in the 1970s served as the basis for Steven Spielberg's film Munich. The central character, Abner, is based on Mr. Aviv's experiences. Juval Aviv is a respected Jewish leader in his field both domestically and abroad. We are providing you with an audience this evening out of respect and an aspiration to understand the stories of a man who has witnessed some of the world's greatest perils that the majority of us have only read about. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please warmly welcome Juval Aviv.
Thank you very much, man. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here today, so really, you deserve it. Well, I'm honored to be here. I do speak all over the world in front of large groups of lawyers, bankers, government agencies, but when I speak in front of a group like this, I really put my heart out because I want to share with you so much. There's so much I want to tell you, and there's so little time. So let me figure out how we can have a dialogue where I will speak to you for a while, and then I'll be open for questions, and we'll take it from there. Let me start by telling you about my background. Why am I an expert in anti-terrorism, in fraud, financial fraud? I started my life in Israel. I was born and raised in Israel. I was a major in Israeli intelligence. And when Golda Meir became the Prime Minister of Israel, I became her personal bodyguard and her advisor on anti-terrorism. That goes back to the late 60s, early 70s. Most of you weren't born then. Golda was the Prime Minister that has opened the doors for a lot of approaches to the Arab world to come and make peace with Israel. I traveled with Golda all over the world. I'll share with you one anecdote about Golda because I used to pick Golda up every morning at 7 a.m. at her apartment. And every morning when I walked in to pick her up, same ritual, she was standing in the kitchen in a morning gown, cooking breakfast for herself and for the bodyguards. And it was really something like Jewish mother. And one day I walk into the living room and I walk into the kitchen and Golda looks at me, she said, one moment. She goes to the phone and she calls my mother. She said, what are we going to do about Juval? He doesn't eat. He's too thin. And now that I'm in the White House quite often and I service and meet with the president, I don't think that none of our presidents will ever call any of the Secret Service bodyguards mother to complain how thin they are. 1972, the Munich Olympic massacres. Again, most of you were too young to remember, where 11 Israeli athletes were slaughtered during the Olympic in Munich. Terrorists have penetrated the sleeping compounds event has to be avenged in such a way that it will send the message to terrorists: you do what you do, but we will find you individually. There's no collateral damages. We're not going to bomb cities. We're going to find you individually, you terrorists who took part in any atrocity, and we'll bring you to justice. And for as long as it takes, we will seek to find you. As I said, it was Friday afternoon, and Golda made the decision. The 11 terrorists who took part in the Munich massacre were hiding in Europe at the time. It was safer for them to be there in their mind, because Israel couldn't send an army to Italy or Germany to look for them. So the government, Golda, came up with an idea to put together a team of 5 agents, commando agents, that would go undercover in Europe, penetrate those terrorist networks of the day, Baader-Meinhof, Red Brigade, Black September, and by becoming one of them, by penetrating, doing undercover work with them, hopefully they will find those terrorists who took part in the Munich massacre and bring them to justice. She turned around in that meeting Friday afternoon and she said, Juval, and you're going to lead the team of 5. I didn't know what I'm getting into. I was 24 years old, and my life has changed by accepting it. But when Golda said, you do something, you do it. I met the other 4 in the team. I was 24 years old. They were all late 40s, early 50s. So I was really worried as a young, new guy, giving orders to much older agents. How will this work? We thought in our humble mind, it's going to take 2-3 months. We're going to go to Europe. We're going to travel. We're going to find those terrorists and bring them to justice. Well, it took 4.5 years. 4.5 years away from our families. We could never be seen travel back to Israel. We could never be seen calling Israel. So we just disappeared. That was the hardest part of the mission. Finding the terrorists, doing what needed to be done to bring them to justice was a secondary. Just going through Friday nights alone in a safe house, only the 5 of us. The high holidays, you couldn't even go to a synagogue, you couldn't go to pray, you couldn't be seen being Israeli or Jewish if you were undercover and you are penetrating a terrorist network. So that was something that if I have nightmares, is about those type of issues. And then slowly we started losing some of our members. 3 of them got killed in the 4.5 years during the mission, and it became harder and harder. The hardest part as a leader was really not only to give the orders, and that was easy relatively, but then to go and visit the wives and kids of the members of your team that just got killed, and bring them the bad news that their loved one was just killed. And of course we couldn't tell, I couldn't tell the wife what had happened, in what circumstances, and thank God they all understood, and they were really living in those safe houses all over Europe. We realized that we're doing a great thing, we're doing something noble because we're taking revenge, we're avenging something that was so bad. But we thought the more we got into it, there will never be an end to it. For every terrorist that we brought to justice, they replaced it with 2-3 other terrorists. So after 4.5 years, I had to make a decision, because Israel had other lists. Of course, there was new lists to go after. But I didn't want to do it. I wasn't raised I wasn't born and raised to become the movie Munich is based on my life story. I never forget getting a call from Steven Spielberg one day and said, Juval, you have to meet the actor who is going to play you in the movie because he wants to meet you. So in the Four Seasons in New York at the hotel, I go in, I knock at the door opens, and here stands this Australian, 6'4", handsome-looking Australian actor. I looked at him, I said, Eric, good choice. But I said also, Eric, look at me, because this is how you're going to look in 20 years from now. Almost quick. But this was really the past. This was, I decided to change what I did, and hoping that I will start a security company, an investigative company, and stay away from terrorism, not knowing that America was just uncovering and going through the experience of what terrorism is all about. And we are not yet over it, and we'll talk about that. In 1979, I opened my company, Interfor Inc., which is a private investigating firm. I now have offices in over 36 countries, and what I do is financial fraud investigation, and I'm also a consultant both to Congress and the White House on anti-terrorism. In that capacity, I have the pleasure in a special task force to meet with the president, every president that we had, the last three presidents, Clinton, Bush, and now Obama. Once a month, we have lunch in the White House, the task force with the president, to discuss terrorism and national security. I can tell you anecdotes, but I don't want to get into politics. And there was a big difference between the various presidents, the way they carry themselves, the way they dealt with the information we have provided. And that is for the humor side of a speech one day, or over coffee, I can tell stories. Let's talk about terrorism. What is terrorism, and how come in such a long time we are not capable to deal with this phenomena of small groups of radical people? And I'm not suggesting they all come from Arab countries. There are radical groups in Israel. There are radical groups in every other country. When you become fundamentalist, when you use religion as your tool or excuse to terrorize innocent people, you're a terrorist. Everybody can become terrorist. It's very easy to become terrorist. All you need is to you take a knife and you take over somebody and you become a radical terrorist. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, most of terrorist acts and most of the terrorists that we know today have come from the Middle East and have come from Arab countries. I have to say it, and I have to say it loud and clear. Not all people who are